Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to kick it off by welcoming everyone. Thank you for your time. We know your time is valuable and it means a lot to us that you're here. My name is Britta Cabanos, and I'm the founder of Inside Fashion Design, which is the host of this talk today. And very happy to have Daniela. Sorry, we're getting chat, so I'll be monitoring that at the same time. So very honored to have Daniela Kane leading this workshop today. She is a design industry expert, worked in the design industry for many years. And now I'm sure you'll share a little more, Daniela, as well, but now she's a design leadership coach. And we have some more people coming in, so I'll admit them. Design leadership coach for women. She's also a coach and mentor here at Inside Fashion Design. And she also has her own brand, Koryphae, high vibrational clothing, which she may mention as well. So today she's going to be leading us through the topic of bringing consciousness into design. So with that, I will pass it off to Danielle. And if you missed it, if you weren't here a minute ago, feel free to type questions in the chat or unmute yourself and raise your hand. This can be interactive, it's informal and fun. So feel free to chime in at any point. So Daniela.
Okay. So let me share my screen here. Okay, and I'm going full screen. So if you are on Zoom, you might have like these two split screens. If you want to see me speak and make that a little bit bigger, you can toggle that line that divides the shared screen and the people who are speaking. You can drag this over to make myself a little bit bigger if you want. Thank you so much for coming today to learn a bit more about the keys to bringing consciousness into fashion. Whether you are a designer or whether you just love fashion and just love clothing and express yourself through fashion. This is a presentation that I did about 2 months ago to the emerging designers for Fashion Next. So they have an incubator program, and they asked me to put a presentation together. And I thought, why not share this a little bit more? I think it is interesting for people who are in the fashion industry and have been in the industry for a long time, but also for anybody else who really likes to wear stuff. And so we are going today, just quickly a snapshot. It's anchored around the 4 life stages of a garment in the textile production. And I'm going a little bit nerdy here, but I think it's very good to always go back to the roots, to the beginning, to the start, where everything starts, and really understand where the fiber, where the fabric is even coming from. Then we're going into the garment production, into customer care, where all of us are joined together, and then again at end of life, because probably close to 100% of the things that we wear eventually land on the landfill. And then just quickly at the end, can fast fashion ever be sustainable? And I'll show you a little bit of a chart that is really eye-opening, or for me even, right? So thank you for the introduction. I just wanted to say a couple of things about me, but Britta has said that so beautifully in the beginning. I'm a design leadership coach, and I work specifically for women leaders in fashion. I'm also a speaker. I'm a breathwork and transformational facilitator, philanthropist, and the founder of Koryphae, which is really based, and I started that brand consciously, knowing deeply these 4 keys, right? So this really informed creating my brand. I have about 20 years experience as design leader in the global apparel industry. For 10 years, I worked at Nike, at Adidas, and Columbia Sportswear in leadership positions. And then the 10 years that followed, then I was working mostly freelance, but I also was a partner in a design sourcing development agency here in Portland. And the clients included backcountry.com, for who we launched their first outerwear private label brand, Pearl Izumi, Pendleton, Green Layer, Handful Bras, and I was also a creative director for Pendleton Women's Wear, helping them pivot their customer base, or the product, to a new customer base. I had, well, about 5 years ago, life changed a little bit for me, or quite dramatically, which led me to step out of my career in the fashion industry. And at the beginning, I was like, okay, great. You know, while I love the industry, there's also, I felt very conflicted about the issues that we're talking about today. And so I thought, oh, okay, not gonna want anything to do with this anymore. I went very deep into meditation, spirituality, breath work, coaching, which then led me, funnily enough, to launch Koryphae, my brand. And now it's going full circle and helping women design leaders from the inside out as well, because I think that there's only one way we can facilitate and create change. It is from the inside out. So if we want to change the industry, we're going to go inside out. So that's why I am launching next year my program called Prêt à Mener, which is a leadership accelerator for high potential designers and emerging women leaders in fashion, so that they have a voice and create more impact and influence within their organizations. And we need women in leadership positions in the industry, because 80% of everybody who works in the apparel industry, from the workers, from the garment workers to the designers and developers, 80% is women, right? But the majority in leadership positions, the ultimate decision makers in the C-suite, there are still men. And 63% of the creative directors globally are men too. So we need to change that paradigm to really help shift what's happening in the industry. So I just want to open that up to you. I can't see the chat if I'm doing this share like that, but you can just popcorn it as well. What does consciousness in fashion mean to you? Do you have any idea or any thought? Or maybe it's just curiosity. And Britta, if you can see the chat and could read that, that would be fantastic.
I've got the chat and I'll let you know what I see.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing
I could say for me, as being an industry designer, many years back or previously, thinking about the whole picture wasn't really a thing or a priority. It was really more just cranking out product that sells. So now for me, consciousness in fashion in my work is thinking of the full circle and how it's going to affect every person and process along the way, and really considering those more, where before it wasn't really in the picture.
Yeah, right. Beautiful. Awesome. That's exactly it. I mean, it does change over time. And yeah, so let's go into it.
Sorry, Daniela, I have one popped up just now. Less pollution, making the garments better pay for those who make the garments, and less focus on buying more.
Yep. That's it. Exactly. Beautiful. Okay. Sustainability. I was looking it up. What does Google say about sustainability? And it says just the avoidance of depletion of natural resources in order to maintain ecological balance. That was specifically on sustainability. I have to start out with this video, which is really encompassing some of the main talking points today.
We communicate who we are through clothing. It is fundamentally a part of what we wish to communicate about ourselves. We used to have a system, a fashion system, that has absolutely nothing to do with the fashion industry today. It has been reinvented.
It's based on materialism. The problem is that comes at a really high price.
And garment factory collapsed, killing more than 1,000. Matching between the clothes factory workers life and
Last November, 112 people were killed in another major factory fire. 30,000 workers
in Bangladesh will pay the price for cheap clothing. The promise of globalization, that it was going to be a win-win, that consumers in the rich world would get cheaper goods and people in the poorer parts of the world would get jobs, and that those jobs would give them an opportunity to work their way out of poverty.
This enormous, rapacious industry that is generating so much profit, why is it it is unable to support the millions of its workers properly? The actual business model is completely unsustainable. Unless you change that model, you can't change anything.
When everything is concentrated on making profits, what you see is that human rights, the environmental workers' rights, get lost. I thought we can do better than this.
Okay, it always makes me so teary when I see this. I put this page together as one snapshot of data and numbers to really break down the apparel industry. So the apparel industry is the second largest industry in the world. It touches almost every human on this planet, right? It produces 1.2 billion tons of greenhouse gases, which is about 10% of global emissions. And we're using about 8,000 synthetic chemicals to turn raw material into textiles. We are producing as an industry overall between 100 and 150 billion items of clothing a year, which is a 400% increase in consumption since I started. Even though we know about the issues, even though we know about sustainability, and even though we know about the ethic issues and problems and challenges, and yet it has increased. Let me see if I can move this. Okay. The average American purchases about almost 60 items of clothing each year. The mind-boggling thing is that 64% of everything, of the 150 billion items of clothing that are being produced, are thrown away without ever being worn. That is such an insane amount of waste of energy, money, resources. And every second, it's like, how does that even compute? How can we even imagine what that looks like? That 64% is thrown away, or 68 pounds per person in America. It is about 2,150 items every second. It's like a garbage truck full every single second that has been thrown away. The industry employs about 300 million workers along the value chain. That means everybody from obviously from the farmer to the designer to the manufacturing to, you know, to being people in the store. 60 million are garment workers, and that's by the Alan MacArthur Foundation, who have put those numbers together. 60 million are garment workers, and 50%, half of them, are not even paid the minimum wage, or not at all, in terms of the pandemic that came in and then they weren't paid. Yeah, over a third of all employment in manufacturing countries in Asia is the apparel industry. So it's a huge, huge industry that people depend on in those countries. What would it look like if the people, the planet, and the profits would be in harmony? That would be a conscious model, right? When it's bearable for the people and bearable for the planet, when it's equitable for the profits of the brands and the people who are making it, and we wouldn't deplete the planet on the way, that's when we would create harmony. And so it is important for everyone, whether we make or design or wear the clothes. I think it is really important for us to understand and be conscious about these 4 keys, which are the 4 life stages of a garment. So we are looking at the textile production, where we're making the fabrics, to the garment production, to customer care, where actually there is a lot of energy consumption in our care, and that's happening in our care when we have it as consumers. And then it's my point always, and I think it was Britta, the book that you recommended the other day, what's his name? Sustainability in Fashion.
Ian,
yes.
Ian Peterman, Conscious Design.
Yes, thank you. Ian Peterman, Conscious Design. And he said something in one of our calls. It's really about looking at, we have such an obsession with making everything like long lasting. But when in fact, if we were to mimic nature, it's a cycle, it's cyclical. It's made, it decomposes, it goes away and creates something, it creates the humus, the cultivation for something new to come. So yeah, I think we need to start thinking in apparel or in any product that we're making is how, because it will be discarded at one point, how can we start designing for the bin? Let's start designing for the landfill. Okay, let's look at textile production first. And this will be like the biggest portion of today's hour. So this, I don't know, for anybody who is not in textile or in the apparel industry, this is what the machine looks like that makes cotton jersey, not just cotton, but jersey material, your t-shirts. So this is the machine. This is what it looks like. It's a circular knitting machine. It goes around like this, and like a cylindrical, snake of fabric is coming out at the bottom. And but I like to break it down even closer to the fiber, or even more down into the fiber classification. I am not including non-wovens in here, or leather or fur. That is almost like it's its own little sub segment of like the 2 main classifications that we see in apparel. We have the natural fibers, and we have man-made fibers. Let's look first at the natural fibers. Ooh, sorry. Natural. I need to move my thing here a little bit out of the way. So sorry. It's like I'm here. Let me quickly go out of this so I can move this around. Okay, natural fiber. We have cellulose fiber and we have protein fiber. These are our 2 classifications within the natural fiber group. For apparel, In the cellulose fiber section on the left, we have two which are in use predominantly. We have the seed fiber, which is cotton. And then we have bast fiber, which is linen, rami, and hemp. So these are rougher, longer, like, you know, the seed fiber of the cotton, it's like fluffy and white and kind of soft already, but bast fiber, they need additional processes in order to be made wearable. And silk, and then other, which is horse, angora, goat, camel, and so on. And then on the man-made fibers, we have a ton, right? And we have again like two subsections of the man-made fiber, or what's considered man-made fiber. We have the ones that are derived from natural resources, meaning plants or algae, or rubber, or wood. And then on the other side, we have synthetic fiber. They are made of oil, pretty much. That's what it comes down to. And you can see to the left, let's go to the natural polymer for a second, because I think that's really, it's interesting for you to know whether you are in apparel or you are not. There's one that's called regenerated protein fiber. This is on the top right corner of the circle, area of the circle. So acetate and triacetate, this is often used in linings for suit jackets, and skirts. So if you have like higher end clothes, suiting, this is where that kind of material is used a lot. And then we have the regenerated cellulose and cellulose derivative fiber. They are both at the bottom. And these are those fabrics that where you see on your tags, it's modal, viscose, cupro, lyocell. So these are man-made fibers, but they are based on natural, like plant-based fabrics, but they need a lot of processes, also chemicals, in order to be made wearable at all. So that's where they get like their soft touch. So the best choice you can make is modal, because it's made from regeneratively farmed beechwood. There's an Austrian company called Tencel, so modal is their trademark name, and they ensure that the beechwood is made in sustainable, in regenerative farming ways. And then we have viscose rayon, which is the generic name of modal. So, but it can also come in wood pulp. So it's basically like the beechwood is also like ground down and made wood pulp out of it, but also soy, bamboo, and hemp has to go through these chemical baths in order to be made into fabrics that we like to wear, right? That humans feel drawn towards. And then it has that like that silky, soft hand feeling, and it feels real good on your body. Cupro is made from cotton waste, and lyocell I think is actually, lyocell is the generic name for modal. I get that mixed up too, you know, so don't worry. It's like always looking at it. It is complex and complicated, and I think there's a reason for it so that we forget. And yes, and then so synthetic polymers, the biggest portion is polyester. Polyester, you know, is far, it's like far ahead in all of global fiber production. It's polyester and nylon a little bit, and then there's the others that are around there. Whew. So this was the most complex image or slide I'm showing, but I wanted to break this down a little bit more. Hi, Cheyenne. I want to break this down a little bit more so that you understand what is the breakdown of those different fibers. like we went through the man-made and natural fibers. And so you can see the orange one, like over half of the global production of fibers is polyester. It's more than half. You can hardly find a garment that doesn't have it blended in. Why? Because it makes, you can blend like a cotton polyester t-shirt. This is really great for the bottom line because you pay less for the final product, the fabric, and you can keep your profits high. And then you can see like all these other synthetics like acryl and polypropylene and elastan. Elastan also something, right, that we have in our jeans, like in our cotton jeans, we have elastan in there. We have this in all types of fabrics. So just know, while we are working on things, so it's made plant-based as well. You know, there's like a lot of people are looking into this to start switching this out. But at the moment, elastan is very widely used. It makes stuff very comfortable and very wearable, but just know it is made, it's petroleum based as well. And then you'll see man-made cellulosic fiber. So we were talking about that these are plant-based, but they need the chemical baths, they need the processing in order to be made wearable so that we like it, whether it's viscose, acetate, lyocell, modal, cupro, we were talking about this earlier. It's a tiny segment. Look at it. It is tiny in comparison to polyester. And look, the cotton is also, cotton is just 30%, you know, less than a third of the global fiber production now is cotton or other plant-based, and animal fibers very, very, very tiny. So this is another, or it's a different way to look at the same chart, and I added that in here. This is by Textile Exchange, is the source of this chart, and you can also see. I want to just put one, like, want to call out one thing. So if you go into the orange field here, and you look at polyester, and you look at recycled polyester. So these are where brands are talking about, oh, is this recycled plastic bottles? It is, you know, 15% of the entire market, right? It's just made out of that. So, well, that's okay, you know, something. It is still, there's ways to go. And the question is also, you know, do we want to wear plastic bottles? But that's a whole different level of consciousness that we need to go in there in order to think about that. And then look, it's very, very small, but bio-based polyester, so where it's plant-based, people are looking into this, okay? This is hot off the press. I'm just gonna show you this small snippet of this video. It was a Kickstarter campaign. I just learned about it from my husband last night, and I thought it was the most convincing thing for a larger audience to understand some of the issue. It is Michael Jordan's son who is launching this brand. So just watch.
Your favorite activewear? It's literally made from oil. Don't believe us? Look at the tag. Made from nylon and polyester, synthetic petroleum-based fibers shed microplastic pollution, even in their recycled form. Our planet can't continue on like this, so neither should we. To make a real change, we have to explore something completely new. Open your eyes, you see around. That's what led us to spend the last 2 years developing next generation biomaterials, transforming plants into fabric.
Great marketing. We've always transformed plants into fiber and clothes, right? But it's just really, So you can see there is a trend already that's coming, and yeah, let's go back into some numbers. I just from this video just now, like polyester, the polyester production, where are we at? It's 10% of our global emissions across all industries is the apparel industry. That is more than all international flights and shipping combined. And there is a estimation that if things don't change, then it will surge 50% higher by 2030. Yes, however, though, when it comes to human rights, it's not that bad. Just the fabric production, right? Because it is highly automated. You saw the machine at the beginning of the slide, like of the category. Because it's highly automated, you only need like supervised machine and robotic supervisors, right? And so they are highly skilled in that as well. But then we have cotton, and while it is a plant-based fiber, there are environmental issues with that, or challenges with that, and also human rights challenges. Your pair of jeans is probably the worst offender in your wardrobe, or in our wardrobe, because I have them too and I love them. Because there is many gallons, I think I'm off like by, I think it's 2,800 gallons of water that is needed in order to grow, make, wash cycle, all of this for a pair of jeans. And yes, so, and of course, in the dyeing process, we have the issue of global wastewater as well, right? So there is like huge numbers of especially around water usage when it comes to cotton consumption. And then we have, I mean, we had human rights issues with cotton, like always. It still exists to this day. Maybe not in the US, but there's a huge issue, as people in the industry know, about the Uyghurs in the Xinjiang, I can't pronounce this properly, in China, that are in, you know, where the human rights are severely violated. Another little video about the life cycle of a t-shirt. This is a TED little movie that is authored by Angel Chang, who is in the UK, I think, and she has a very conscious, high-end clothing line where it really goes back to basics, and everything that we talked about is really taken into account here.
Consider the classic white t-shirt. Annually, we sell and buy 2 billion t-shirts globally, making it one of the most common garments in the world. But how and where is the average t-shirt made, and what's its environmental impact? Clothing items can vary a lot, but a typical t-shirt begins its life on a farm in America, China, or India, where cotton seeds are sown, irrigated, and grown for the fluffy bolls they produce.
Oh, sorry about this. What happened here? What happened? There we go.
Oh, it's back.
It's back. There we go. Let's try this again. Let's get here.
But how and where is the average t-shirt made, and what's its environmental impact? Clothing items can vary a lot, but a typical t-shirt begins its life on a farm in America, China, or India, where cotton seeds are sown, irrigated, and grown for the fluffy bolls they produce. Self-driving machines carefully harvest these puffs. An industrial cotton gin mechanically separates the fluffy bolls from the seeds, and the cotton lint is pressed into 225 kilogram bales. The cotton plants require a huge quantity of water and pesticides. 2,700 liters of water are needed to produce the average t-shirt, enough to fill more than 30 bathtubs. Meanwhile, cotton uses more insecticides and pesticides than any other crop in the world. These pollutants can be carcinogenic, harm the health of field workers, and damage surrounding ecosystems. Some t-shirts are made of organic cotton, grown without pesticides and insecticides, but organic cotton makes up less than 1% of the 22.7 million metric tons of cotton produced worldwide. Once the cotton bales leave the farm, textile mills ship them to a spinning facility, usually in China or India, where high-tech machines blend, card, comb, pull, stretch, and finally twist the cotton into snowy ropes of yarn called slivers. Then yarns are sent to the mill, where huge circular knitting machines weave them into sheets of rough grayish fabric, treated with heat and chemicals until they turn soft and white. Here, the fabric is dipped into commercial bleaches and azo dyes, which make up the vivid coloring in about 70% of textiles. Unfortunately, some of these contain cancer-causing cadmium, lead, chromium, and mercury. Other harmful compounds and chemicals can cause widespread contamination when released as toxic wastewater in rivers and oceans. Technologies are now so advanced in some countries that the entire process of growing and producing fabric barely touches a human hand, but only up until this point. After the finished cloth travels to factories, often in Bangladesh, China, India, or Turkey, human labor is still required to stitch them up into t-shirts, intricate work that machines just can't do. This process has its own problems. Bangladesh, for example, which has surpassed China as the world's biggest exporter of cotton t-shirts, employs 4.5 million people in the t-shirt industry, but they typically face poor conditions and low wages. After manufacture, all those t-shirts travel by ship, train, and truck to be sold in high-income countries, a process that gives cotton an enormous carbon footprint. Some countries produce their own clothing domestically, which cuts out this polluting stage. But generally, apparel production accounts for 10% of global carbon emissions, and it's escalating. Cheaper garments and the public's willingness to buy boosted global production from 1994 to 2014 by 400% to around 80 billion garments each year. Finally, in a consumer's home, the t-shirt goes through one of the most resource-intensive phases of its lifetime. In America, for instance, the average household does nearly 400 loads of laundry per year, each using about 40 gallons of water. Washing machines and dryers both use energy, with dryers requiring 5 to 6 times more than washers. This dramatic shift in clothing consumption over the last 20 years, driven by large corporations and the trend of fast fashion, has cost the environment, the health of farmers, and driven questionable human labor practices. It's also turned fashion into the second largest polluter in the world after oil. But there are things we can do. Consider shopping secondhand. Try to look for textiles made from recycled or organic fabrics. Wash clothes less and line dry to save resources. Instead of throwing them away at the end of their life, donate, recycle, or reuse them as cleaning rags. And finally, you might ask yourself, how many t-shirts and articles of clothing will you consume over your lifetime? And what will be their combined impact on the world? When we produce TED-Ed videos about the environment, we often think,
Okay, they're talking about their TED produced videos here. Pretty interesting, right? It doesn't get old for me, like just to remember and recall this kind of information because it's so easy to forget. Britta, did you want to say?
I'm just, blown away by the statistics. It really is eye-opening when you see that.
Mm-hmm. right? And you've been in the industry for
Yeah,
just like
many
around the
years,
same time.
many years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how are you all doing? Good? Yeah, okay. Let's go into the next key that to more consciousness, or bringing consciousness into fashion. It is the garment production. And I just want to bring those numbers back into our own consciousness here. We have 300 million workers along the entire value chain, including design, development, sourcing, shipping, marketing, merchandising, sales. And the 60 million garment workers that are, thanks, Isabella. The 60 million, so Isabella said, trying to pick up the pieces of my brain scattered on the floor after it's been blown. You know, it's really interesting. We don't, thank you for saying that. We don't, yeah, we are not aware. And I really think that it was not intentional like that. It's just that the industry just was growing into this thing. And now there is this veil where it is hard to poke through to actually see what's happening and what's going on. And it's so compartmentalized that we aren't aware. And even if we are aware, or if we hear something or see something on the news or in an article, it is, you know, it's always good to remember. So while in Asia, almost 35% of all workers in those countries are reliant on the apparel industry, and from the 60 million workers, garment workers, that are the people who are actually sewing and in fiber, not in fiber production, but in the mills, whether they're making our fabrics, dyeing our fabrics, finishing our fabrics, to cutting and sewing them, ironing them, finishing, adding the tags on them, folding them, packing them. This is what is all in this 80 million people. And 50% aren't even paid the minimum wage. I just got, maybe you've seen that, Shein is a Chinese-based fast fashion, humongous company. They are paying their workers 2 cents a garment. I don't know, for people who might like to sew something themselves and know how freaking long it takes to put a garment together. It takes hours. And here you are, and you're giving 2 cents. It's crazy. And what do I have here on my slide? Oh, here we're talking even 170 million people in child labor in 2022. So it is still there, even though the large companies, you know, they have people who are doing oversight and so on, but it is still alive and kicking. And she's not here today. I always like to talk about my friend Nazreen, or who became a friend of mine, and Britta as well, who was born in Nepal and grew up as a slave laborer in the apparel industry. And she was the one maybe getting 2 cents, because it's slave labor, right? Even if you're getting paid, if you're getting 2 cents per garment, that is not minimum wage. You cannot make minimum wage, even if you work day and night. And so she is a child, and she makes those clothes, and she has a quota. And when she doesn't reach that quota, she doesn't get paid at all. like a day worth of work is gone if she does not reach her quota, no matter how long she's been working. So she doesn't have a bed, and ends up sleeping on the pile of clothes that she has sewn the day. And she has no time to play. She has no time to talk to people. And so she is starting to speak to the clothes that she made, and she wonders, and she has this on her website, and she wonders, who are the people wearing the clothes that are woven with the energy of my suffering? And that is the biggest question. Who are we? And we are not even aware. But how does that impact us? How does it impact our own well-being? Right. And then, you can see here, during the pandemic, a majority of workers were just laid off without ever being paid. They're still waiting for huge amounts of money to be paid back to them to this day. And then we're going into the next one, customer care. And that is probably underappreciated also. And I have a teenager, and even though I'm in this work and I'm very, very conscious of that, I can also, it's like what clothes mean for the kids. Yes, thank you. Britta just put the website in, Nazreen's website, so you can check Nazreen out. So she is the woman from Nepal. She is an advocate now for global human rights and against slave labor. And she's really working on getting people's attention. And she's doing a really amazing job in this, from talking at the United Nations, I believe, and getting an audience with the Pope, among other people. So it's pretty awesome. And so now when it comes to customer care, we aren't really aware that the way we care for our clothes has an impact on the environment as well. You saw in the video about the cotton and the wash cycle and how energy, like high energy consumption, the drying cycle and the wash cycle is. Let's talk not so much from the energy point of view, but from the microplastic pollution. So now when you put it together, that the vast majority of global fiber production today is polyester. And what polyester is, it's these tiny fibers. So, okay. So if you want to just experiment what microfiber pollution looks like, take a lint roller and go over your yoga pants. And you can see that is microfiber. What is stuck on your lint roller, this is microfiber. And it's from plastic. And yes, there's a huge microfiber cloud that is being vacuumed up in the cutting process at the factory. But the big impact is in our washing machines, where that stuff is just leaching into the water. And I mean, I've tried some Cora balls and all of this. It's, in my opinion, I don't see how this is working. But the interesting thing is that there is something that you can do actually. And so here, the University of Newcastle in England, you can see this picture there. They did these different tests, like when is the microfiber shedding more, with a full washing machine or with an empty washing machine? And they were thinking if it's full, then the microfiber might rub off on each other and it would, there's more microfiber, and the exact opposite is happening. So stuff your washing machine full, like full wash loads. You can see the difference on the left-hand side. You can see here, this is what a full load looks like. It actually captures more of the microfiber than a wash load that is just half loaded or, you know, very not fully loaded. Yeah, 500,000 to 6 million microfiber particles are estimated to be released with each wash cycle. So I know we're talking about plastic pollution in the ocean and like this plastic patch, right? That it's very hard also to retrieve, and this stuff is in the air. We breathe it. It's what's ingested. It is estimated, and this kind of is mind-blowing again, that we are consuming a credit card worth of plastic every week. It's not a year, it's every week. And that's pretty gross. So load up your washing machines. Okay, so, and then going end of life. As I said, I think we need to start thinking about end of life way more as designers and brands and companies. Absolutely 100% we need to think about what is going to happen, because if 64% of the clothes that are being produced each year are thrown away without ever being worn, and they are made out of plastics, why? Because they're cheap. You can get them at Shein for $9 a dress. It's, you know, it's throwaway stuff. So we need to start thinking about creating like nature, thinking like nature. Because I believe that we as humans, we are creative beings. It's our birthright to be creative and to create and make and manifest and do all of these things. Like all of the sustainability teachings, and it's all guilt and shame based, and it's not working, obviously, because we've grown the problem 400%. So we need to shift our way of thinking that we can create in a way that it's not about longevity. If we are throwing away 64%, and probably like most of our clothes, I would say 98% of the clothes will eventually land on a landfill. Eventually it will. I mean, that's, you know, very few things are ending up in a museum. Very few things, right? If I think 5%, and then we're probably like, this is largely estimated. So we need to think about how can we make things less, not long lasting, so that we can play with fashion, that we can play with clothes, that we don't feel guilty, that we can enjoy this. How can we do this? And as you saw, the video that we did earlier on is with active wear made from plants and fibers, because then it will decompose, right? So that's great. Like, let's go into that way. Yeah, that is my thought about consciousness here. And then here, this last slide, and then I'm gonna pop back on larger, and we can talk a little bit about that. The question is, can fast fashion ever be sustainable? You can see the top one, it is there used to be, I mean, since it's been like a business model has been to have 2 seasons, right? To have a spring, summer and a fall, winter collection. So it's 2 to 3 cycles per year. The fast fashion is so that every month there is, and maybe not just every month, but every 2 weeks, there's something new in store, something new to buy every week. So this is every other week, 50 cycles per year. So that is fast fashion. And when I'm talking about Shein, or there's another company out of the UK, it's called Misguided. even call it that. I think it's like, it's fantastic, right? How can you call a brand like misguided? And it's ultra fast fashion, right? So it's like every day there's something else. So that's the Shein model. You go on the website and there's something new every day. So it is like this bottomless pit. You can just buy some stuff for $9, $15, and you wear it once and you throw it away. All right. There, stop the share.
Thank you, Daniela. It is mind-blowing, to say the least.
Yeah, I know. It is like one of the most creative things you can do as, somebody who creates things and make things out of nothing, and you take some flat fabric and in color and you play, and it's like a beautiful job. And yet it has like this tail at the end that is really, really harmful. And so like full circle really to like the beginning, like how can we change this? And the only way we can change this is from the inside out.
Mm.
And the only problem, so this question is, one of my mentors, some people know, like Sage, she has a TED Talk, Sage Levine, she has a TED Talk, and she explains in this TED Talk that she's going to the indigenous communities, and she speaks with the elders, and one elder woman stops her and says, in our culture, the men go out and hunt. That's their job. And it is the woman's job to say when it is enough. When are you telling your men it's enough? And this model of consumerism is based, well, we don't tell them it's enough because we don't feel enough. That's what the consumerism and our entire way of being is based on, us not feeling enough. So it is really about changing from the inside out, whether that is the fashion industry, whether that is, you can only do that, whether it's the fashion industry and work with women in fashion so that they feel enough. So that's all my work. All my work is surrounded by that. How can we get to enough? How can we feel enough? And once we're there, we don't need to consume. We can if we like. We can make our decisions because we love something, want something, and we cherish ourselves enough. And so one last thing that's just popping back into my mind is, how can we make a conscious choice about what we want to buy? And it is from a book that's called Love Money, Money Loves You. It's like how to understand when to buy something and when not. So if the value of the thing, I'm getting a call here, if the value of the thing that you are about to purchase is less than you value yourself, then don't buy. Don't buy. If the thing that you are about to purchase, the value of that thing is the same, then buy.
That is a huge shift in thinking, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So I think we are at the top of the hour. We are a minute late. So I just want to say thank you all for coming. For people in the industry who want to connect more, who want to build like this LinkedIn for the apparel industry. Britta has this amazing platform, Inside Fashion Design, for designers to connect more closely and collaborate and work and educate each other and themselves. There's a lot of courses. I'm in collaboration also with Britta and Inside Fashion Design. There are more courses where it's more about consciousness. We're having some great ones, like Six-Figure Freelancer is one, and corporate design superstar and superhuman creativity, that is coming up. But this is a platform that you can jump into. Britta, do you have the link for that?
Yeah, I will type that in right now.
And then if you want to connect with me, let's see, do I have that? I have put of course, you can go to Koryphae.com. Would you mind putting that in? This is my brand that I launched earlier this year. It is made in the most conscious way that I can. All the fabrics are woven on hand looms. I have two types of fabrics. One is linen. Can go into this whole study about the vibrational frequencies of textiles here. So it's based on the insights there. Linen has one of the highest vibrational frequencies, and so it is made on hand looms by artisan weavers in India, in Calcutta, around the outskirts of Calcutta, and also New Delhi. And the other one is hand loomed denim, which feels almost like this tensile lyocell. So it's very, very nice and supple. And so that's there. So it's all based on like all my knowledge, 20 years in the industry, and informed by everything that I shared with you today. And if you just want to stay in connection with me, I have started a Facebook group. How do I get out of here? You
want me to type it in? Is it
So I have that. I put this up here, and it's free to join. I keep it where I would just post anything that I learn. Yeah, this is about making consciousness a fashion staple, kind of helping bring more information.
I think about the video of the activewear with the oil, wearing that versus wearing one of your linen pieces, and the difference between the two and how that would feel. And when you think about it, like comparing the two, it's just, yeah, again, it's mind blowing, and it makes you rethink and shift in your decision of what you're putting on your body, for sure.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Jim, Jim popped in a question. Let's see. Adding to what Daniela has shared, would you be interested in hearing more about the impact of dye processes? Jim has worked with e-dye and is very much involved in sustainability efforts and in the apparel industry as well. So dyeing is something that he's, Jim, you could maybe explain it a little better than I am, but
yeah. Hey, so thanks everyone for attending today's session here. With what Daniela shared, she touched on some of the different processes for how especially the synthetic fibers are treated. Some of the natural fibers and the cellulose fibers, those go through a different process because of the fact that they are derivatives of what we'll say is natural fibers. But when we're talking specifically about the petroleum-based products, there's more reasons for trying to recycle or minimize the consumption of I'm using polyesters as an example. If you're interested in hearing more about that, and we can add on to what Daniela has shared today and just look at just one step in that process, the broader impact of all of our decisions in these 4 stages that Daniela shared. So if you have an interest in that, we might offer that as a future session where we could have this conversation, so that as you're making your product decisions, this would help to shape how you might select your materials, how you might select your color palettes. And also there is some changes in regulations where there will be additional impact to how we process our fibers and our textiles. So I think it would be a fun thing for us to touch on, especially because there's some additional things that are coming through on the European Union side, which will take effect well before anything happens here in North America. So I see a couple of people who are interested. So we'll go ahead and we'll take that as a signal to say that there might be some interest in diving in a little bit deeper. So we'll prep a little info session for everybody to consider in the future, and we'll come back to you with that. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, before we go, I just wanted to say, well, again, thank you for coming. Next week, Tuesday, the 8th, I believe it's at 2 p.m., we're launching a 4-part series workshop, same format as this, and it's called the 360-degree design and development process. And that's through a sustainable lens as well. And that's going to be led by Joanne Swift, who's based in LA, but she's British. And she spent many, many years living in Asia, working with factories there. So she's got tons of resources and knowledge about the whole production process and fibers and fabrics and sourcing and whatnot. So those are going to be 4 weeks in a row for 1 hour, starting on Tuesday, the 8th. And so please, check that out as well and join us again. And does anyone have any questions before we sign off?
Hello, yes, I do, if I can pop in.
Yes, please.
Daniela, when you was talking about these cellulose fibers, I was wondering, maybe I can start the video so you can see me. Hello.
Hi.
I was making my last collection on the base to separate synthetic and natural fabrics. And I have, I was not sure about cellulose or about the viscose and lyocell, if it's possible to compost later, or if you know which type of chemicals it's possible to, they are putting inside of these fabrics, because I wanted to separate collections. So if you have 100% synthetic materials, you can recycle, and if you have 100% natural, you can compost. After using, after the consumer using the clothes. So I'm thinking more far in this way. Yes. And I get struggled a bit with the viscose and lyocell.
It's a good question. To my knowledge, because it's plant-based, it will biodegrade and much quicker than than of course the polyester, because that's going to take forever. So I believe the answer is yes. But I don't know the impact of the chemicals. But other than dye stuff and the chemicals that may still exist in the fiber, then after, several wash cycles, I don't know what impact it has on the decomposition process.
Because I was thinking, when I buy some natural colors, and maybe to dye it by natural, also by natural coloring. Yeah. So, but still what is this chemical which is inside of the making the cellulose to make the fibers. So I get struggled with this, if it's safe to compost and put these chemicals into the earth then. How, because I don't know which type of chemicals are inside, because some of them can be good, or I mean not too bad when it's come to the compost. And
right. I don't know what the answer is. However, I think that when chemicals are used, they need to be washed and rinsed so that we can even wear that. Will there be some residue potentially? Maybe Jim knows the answer to that better than I.
Oh.
Well, Monica, for your question, I mean, I think that's a great perspective to adopt. And without knowing the specifics, I'll give sort of a general answer here. So for anything that's like, when we talk about the cellulose grouping, like we're talking about natural fibers, right? So in theory, again, this is not a specific answer to this, but just as a general rule, if it's in the natural fibers family, yeah, there, you know, most likely that can go back into a compost or that type of a recycle loop or decomposition loop. Where it gets a little bit tricky is some of the things that are additives, like some of the dye stuff or the colorants, right? For like for workwear, where you might have like a color T-shirt, but it's that safety yellow that's like really bright neon type of color. Well, the fluorescence in that makes it so that there's elements in there that is a challenge in terms of putting it back into compost. Or for, you know, some of those, like say, if we're talking about a T-shirt, well, if there's an antimicrobial treatment on it, that could pose a problem. So it's not necessarily the fiber itself, but it's how it's processed and the additive. The same reference that Daniela was making, in that, like, if it's antimicrobial, well, is it a zinc or a silver based treatment for the antimicrobial? So that's where, you know, those additives, in terms of, it's not so much the cellulose itself, but it's, or what's in the natural fibers category, it's what's added or what's used in the processing of it that could be a challenge. So I would suggest maybe considering that part as a pathway that you might consider investigating. And were you the one earlier at the beginning of the program that said that you were in Sweden? Is that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm
Well, so in Sweden, there's a number of organizations who are supporting the study of water consumption in the textile industry, as an example. So that would be a good basis for, if it's safe for how water is used in the process, most likely then it's going to be acceptable for composting. So that might be something to consider in terms of how you might approach looking at some of the you know, natural fibers that you consider. If you're anywhere in, you know, like Gothenburg or Borås area, there's tons of resources specifically for textiles that, you know, where different labs and nonprofit foundations that study this. So that might be of interest to you.
Okay. Oh, because
Well,
I'm based in Stockholm, but in Borås is really great university for textiles, and they
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I want to visit it, and yeah, I would like to go there. And
That
see.
would be, yeah, that would be a great resource there. And yeah, and if you're interested, connect with us through Inside Fashion Design, and then I can direct you to a couple of those associations, you know, in, you know, Borås and Gothenburg that are doing that type of water study. Also in Stockholm too. I can think of two that are top of mind. So I'll put that into a note back to you if you're interested.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This will
All
be
right.
really helpful. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, if you're willing to stay up this late to hear us talk about it, then you know, you deserve some sort of a prize, right?
I am super excited, and also it's really nice to hear like it's still more and more of us who want to change something and like do with today's situation, because it's not easy at all. So we need to just spread the information more far to more people so they can understand what we are doing and why. So I'm just really happy to be part. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that comment and joining us. That's what we hope to achieve, is just collectively working together and bringing in more, you know, industry experts that are working towards all these goals and help us all find the right path.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I think
No.
we're like quite a bit over too, so I would say thank you all.
Thank you.
For
Happy
coming,
Friday.
for staying on. Yes, happy Friday.
Well,
And-
please join us again. Thank you again, Daniela, and for everyone for joining us. We appreciate your time, and check out all the links in the chat and reach out anytime with any comment, question. We love, you know, connecting and interacting with people, and we're here to have more of a community and a personal connections and relationships. We value that very much, and we can be stronger together. So please reach out anytime for anything. So have a great weekend, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.